So I'm a waitress at a diner. For the past 6 years, I've encountered some strange experiences, which I'm going to tell you about. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning when the 3-headed dog showed up. I'd shown up at 8 to start my night shift with my coworker Jay. It's usually just us two and the cook during the night shift. Sometimes the previous cook, Doug, didn't bother showing up since it's, the dead of night. That's why he wasn't there when the vampire incident occurred. On the occasion when people did show up, I was the one that had to make the food. So Doug had once asked, who the heck is gonna get a hamburger at 2 in the morning? And Jay's like, stoners? And Doug's like, oh, I'm not surprised that you have experience in that department. So Jay flipped him off for that one and just didn't reply, choosing instead to stare at the wall. We all know his backstory. His family had been addicts. He had seen the downfall of what would happen. He witnessed his older sister strangling his mother for money for heroin, and he'd also seen his brother beating their sister with a hammer for heroin. He had to call an ambulance for his dad when his dad had multiple overdoses. It was no wonder why Jay refused to fall for drugs. He was scared that if he smoked pot, he would never stop and just go for the hardcore drugs. Maybe that's why nothing seemed to faze him as he worked here. His own childhood was a horror story. Anyways, I was sitting at a table reading a book and drinking some Hellfire when our new cook Loretta got my attention. She had been working at the diner for 3 months, so she hasn't fully grasped the weirdness of the diner yet. Except for some odd instances happening that she had just written off. She still can't write off Sasquatch hanging around, though. Our previous cook, Doug, had retired. And by retired, I mean that he'd gotten kidnapped by a rainbird when he had barely stepped outside of his car. Jay and I saw that thing swoop down and just take off with him. We had to close down the diner for a while so we could get a new cook. Coincidentally enough, it rained for like a week after the rainbird took Doug. I keep hearing some strange scratching noises out back, Loretta said to me. I need you or Jay to go take a look at what it is. Jay and I exchanged a look, and after a heated round of rock, paper, scissors, I was the loser that had to go take a look. He smirked at me. I reached over and tugged at his lip ring for smirking at me, but whatever. He'd grown on me over the past 4 years since he started working here. He was the less annoying coworker that I've had to work with. I even considered him a dear friend. Well, so I took a garlic necklace with me just in case the vampire had changed tactics, and I took a deep breath and opened the door, brandishing the necklace around like Leatherface swinging his chainsaw around at the end of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just in case the vampire would jump on me, Anyways, I look around and I don't see anything. Well, in the trees, I saw Sasquatch walk by, and while I look around again, one can't be too sure when looking around back at night. I even stepped outside and looked up onto the roof to see if the vampire was there, but he wasn't. I looked at the walls and there wasn't anything. But before I went back inside, I saw that there were scratches on the door, like a dog scratching it like it was desperate to get inside or something. Well, as far as I know, there weren't any dogs around. Actually, now that I think about it, I haven't seen any woodland animals around the diner. I think whatever goes on in the woods scared them off. I went back inside where Jay and Loretta were at, and Loretta was just looking terrified. She was all like, well, do you know what it is, Autumn? And I just go, hell if I know. Loretta was about 2 years older than me, but I had seniority over her, I was there longer, and Jay was 2 years younger than me, but he also had seniority over Loretta since he started working here at the diner since he was 16. So Jay's like, was it the vampire? And, he pushed down the window blinds to the side to look outside for it, and he's like, well, I didn't see it. And I was like, no, like I said, I don't know what it was. So Loretta's like, well, maybe it was mice then. She was playing with her hair that she recently dyed lime green. And I'm just like, we don't have mice. And then Jay's like, or any type of animal for that matter. So Loretta's just like, okay, it was just a thought. She just looks super spooked. Jay looked out the window again. He was probably looking for the vampire. And then he frowned and was like, what the heck is that? He gets up and goes to the door. So Loretta's like, what did he see? And I'm like, And then there was a clacking sound, like a dog's nails on linoleum when it runs. I turned to see a dog. It looked like a German Shepherd or something running in, and it was, brown with black spots. My mouth dropped open at the sight of it because it had 3 heads. So Loretta screams and yells, oh God, and she backs up into the wall and slid down staring at the dog. She kept mouthing, oh God, over and over again. She was hyperventilating, and Jay went to her to make sure she wouldn't pass out. The dog bounded across the floor and jumped into a booth. It sat at a table like it was a regular dog and not a three-headed creature. It looked at Loretta, Jay, and me with its three heads, and in unison, it blinked. I couldn't move because I was just stunned at the sight. I know that's saying a lot because I've seen a lot of weird crap since I started working here. I turned to look at Jay and Loretta, wondering who was brave enough to go near it. "Well, now what?" Jay asked, looking at me. I was the one with a lot of experience under my apron after all, so I guess I should know what to do. Instead, I just stuttered, I don't know. Do you think it maybe wants something to eat? So then, one of the dog's heads barked, like it was answering my question on wanting something to eat. "I guess it wants something to eat," said Jay, "but what does it eat?" So we looked at the dog, who was staring at us. It was kind of cute, despite having 2 extra heads attached to its body. Jay decided to stick a menu on the table in front of the dog, opening it up for it to look at. The dog looked at it for a few moments with its heads and tapped the heart attack with its paw. Now, the heart attack was 3 quadruple patty hamburgers. The patties were cheese-filled and it had a heart attack-inducing amount of bacon on it. We have to have an ambulance on standby when it's ordered, just in case. I looked at Jay, who was looking unsure at the dog. That was a lot for it. Oh, and Jay just asks it, "Are you sure?" And then the dog nods its 3 heads as it stares at us. "Are you gonna pay for it, or are we?" I jokingly asked the dog. I wouldn't mind paying for its food." The left head, which was the closest to us, motioned to its other heads and moved out of the way to show us the middle head. It was wearing a collar, and I noticed something was right between its collar and its neck. Jay removed the object from its collar, and I noticed that it looked like a dollar bill that was folded. So Jay unfolds it and shows it to me, and it was a $100 bill. And he actually asks, "Do you want the change back?" The dog shook its heads, and Jay took the menu back and passed me the 100, and he's like, "Make sure it's real, I'd rather not get chewed out by Matt." I nod and went to make sure it was real, while Jay went to make sure that Loretta hadn't fainted so that she could make the dog its food. She seemed super confused on how well we were taking the situation. After checking the 100 to see if it was real, which it was, Jay and I had broken down an old cardboard box to put on the table because we'd rather not have the dog eat off of our dishes, and we also cut the bottom part of an empty water gallon as a makeshift bowl so we can fill it with water and give it to the dog to drink. And later, Jay and I delivered the food to the dog. It started eating the hamburgers, 1 hamburger for each head. Loretta, Jay, and I watched it eat, still in a little bit of disbelief over seeing a 3-headed dog. It took about 30 minutes to eat before it went to the front door. And then so I go to let it out, and I'm like, "Come back soon," but it was like a force of a habit to say that to our leaving customers. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. It was strange having an animal show up, even though there weren't any animals, discounting the cook-snatching rainbird. I was gonna let the door close when in a raspy voice I heard, "Leave the door open, dear." And I look up and see about 5 strange women standing under a street lamp across from me in the parking lot, while a 6th woman stood a bit away from the door out of my line of sight. I was startled by the sight of these women, but I managed to get a good look at them. They looked like birds, but had like women's heads instead. I recognized them instantly. They were harpies. However, that incident with them is another story for another time.